All right, welcome back to Mining Stock Daily, everybody. Jumping into a corporate update, overdue corporate update, I might add, with K2 Gold. They do trade on the Venture Exchange with KTO and on the OTCQX with KTGDF. Happy to welcome in CEO Anthony Margarit on some important updates, including, obviously, a lot of attention as the company's back at the Mojave Project in California, but that's not the only thing happening within the portfolio. More on that later. But Anthony, good to see you. Welcome back.
Yeah, likewise, Trevor. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, listen, obviously there's big news out of California with Mojave earlier this year. You and I chatted about that. You did announce the mobilization of the drill rig to the project mid-June, and then last week got the update that drilling is underway. So congratulations on all this, a long time coming. But with all the permitting work behind you, drilling underway, what does this mean for the company? And should we reach as milestones? Excuse me.
Yeah, no. Honestly, it feels like we're just getting started now. It's been a road to get here. I'm super proud that we made it through and we're drilling right now, but it feels like now we're getting started with what we're good at. We've got a tremendous amount of targets to test, a lot of work to build out on, following up on the results from the 2021 drill program. We're starting up at the Dragonfly target area. First pad's 40 meters north of the highlight, 87 meters at 4-gram hole. We're targeting surface samples up there that run just shy of 20 grams at surface. And to kind of put that in perspective, the 87 meters at 4-gram hole at Dragonfly was targeted from I think an 8 or 9 gram surface sample. So same structure further north and just starting to build out the footprint of mineralization there. And we'll work our way south down to the Newmont target. This is the biggest drill program that K2's ever embarked upon. I'm proud of the team we have together and all the work everyone did to get us here.
Yeah. What maybe is, for those that have really become familiar with the project over the years and held on to that knowledge, what remains maybe those overhanging questions about Mojave that perhaps this new first phase of drilling will help answer?
Well, we designed this phase of drilling to be able to generate a resource from. We're not going to go down that road immediately. I think at this point in the evolution of the project, it's more important for us to get out and test as many targets as possible and really demonstrate the scale and robustness of this system. We're focused on a 5-kilometer long gold trend on the east side of the property right now, but we've identified a 5-kilometer long copper trend on the west side of the property. There's the northwest corner of the property that sits adjacent to the historic Cerro Gordo silver mine. We call it the Morningstar target area. That area, there's about a 2-kilometer long trend with tremendous silver results, over 2,000 grams silver with anywhere from 4+ grams of gold and up to over 3% copper up there, plus silver, lead, zinc. Very strong indications of some other critical minerals up there too, possibly germanium, antimony, but it's, really demonstrating the potential and the scale of this project is going to be what we'll try to achieve this calendar year and going forward, continuing building that out.
Okay. You've been hanging on to some resemblance of a geological model for a number of years now. Do you expect that model to evolve pretty quickly through this campaign?
Absolutely, yeah. Like we've proven the east side of it with the gold trend, but getting out to the west side eventually and testing that copper trend will be critical, as well as up at the Morningstar target area there.
Okay.
And all indications we've seen the way the historic workings. There's over 200 historic workings on the west side of the property, and when you look at you keep in mind that drilling didn't exist when these guys were out there exploring. So they were exploring, targeting surface showings, and then it was either sink a vertical shaft or drift into the side of the mountain. So when you see all of those historic workings and how they line up with our model, it's pretty compelling.
Okay. You've pointed out just really the complexity of Mojave. You're not just chasing a single target. There's lots of mineralized corridors across the property here. So how should investors think about what broader discovery potential still lies beyond here? What do those targets kind of look like, the blue sky?
Oh, it's really hard to put a label on that, and I get asked quite often for analogs of Mojave, and I think at this point it's too early to really start to throw labels on this, but you know, at this point, it's a polymetallic system. This is driven by a big porphyry intrusion at depth. That was a heat engine. We've got strong evidence of that in the geophysics. And the way, just as I was explaining, the way that that geophysical evidence ties into the historic workings and the drilling that we have currently. If it was just a geophysical model, I'd kind of look at it and be like, that's a great image. It really needs to be tested and proven. But I think at this point,
Mm,
I'm not saying we've got 100% confidence in it, but we've got a very high level of confidence in it. And getting through this phase of drilling will really start to confirm that more and more. But the
okay.
potential here is, you know, over 6,000 hectares, three distinct, diff, three distinct trends that can be broken down into multiple target areas, but definitely strong potential for, I don't want to say multiple mines and get in front of ourselves, but multiple s- big emplacements here,
Right, right.
large mineralized emplacements.
Well, multiple opportunities, well, I'll call them opportunities here, Anthony, require targets, multiple targets to get there.
Mhm.
And we obviously talked about the drilling that's underway, but your team, the exploration team, continues to advance other, lower on the totem pole targets, Flores, Gold Valley, Stega. These are kind of
Flores is
names that
really
you
turning, yeah, Flores is really
okay.
turning into something unique. So, uh, in the past, like Chris Taylor from Great Bear held his property before. Chris cut a 40 plus meter channel sample or in the Flores target area that ran over 4 grams. We've done a lot of work following that up, and those samples are in the lab now. I think we've got, more than 600 rock samples in the lab right now that we've collected over the last couple months while we've been active in the area. So we are really hitting the entire property hard right now for sampling, generating new targets, increasing our knowledge on targets that we've already identified, and really starting to hone in and generate high confidence drill targets in those areas. But I really like Flores. It's interesting, it's just to the east of Newmont, and most of the everywhere else on the property we see as you move north, grade seems to intensify. It doesn't matter if it's gold zone, the copper trend, silver, lead, zinc. Um, that just seems to be the nature of the property. As you move north, grades increase. What's really interesting about Flores, it sits off to the east of the Newmont trend, uh, but it's how it hasn't been drilled. But from what we're seeing at surface, it's higher grade than what we see at Newmont. So
Mm,
something different there, but still, within the same trend and potential to add a significant number of ounces out there.
okay. Lots of work to happen at Mojave, and you and I will be chatting about those
Yeah,
outcomes and results here in
we'll have a
the
tremendous
weeks and
amount of new flow coming.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very busy second half of the year.
Mhm.
But that's not to be outdone by you. You've obviously I mentioned other projects within the portfolio. And weeks ago, you did publish an update on the recent drilling at the Si2 project in Nevada, and I think this was kind of an attention grabber. Obviously, Mojave was the priority, but we're doing work at Si2 with new drilling. But you found recent drilling reinterpretation suggested you've only tested the shallow portions of what could become a much larger low sulfidation epithermal system. What's given the team the confidence to target something deeper here, Anthony?
Um, it all started with the fluid inclusion study that we completed late in 2025. I think it was like late November. We finally got the results back. They basically they those results prove that in our drilling in 2023, we had an intercept on our first hole. The last three and a bit meters, 3.2 or 3.5 meters, ran about just over half a gram, 0.52 grams. So it was starting to get interesting. Um, our our main issue was we didn't know vertically where we were in the system. If we were down in the productive boiling zone of the epithermal system, and that was the best grade that we'd see, or if there was a reason to go deeper on this. So those fluid inclusions basically prove that like the boiling zone of an epithermal system is 220 to 250 degrees. That half gram sample ran at 207, I believe it was. It's in our news release in the image, but I'm pretty sure it's 207 degrees. So we were close, but not quite there yet. We did we expanded our IP survey a bit. That was a light switch moment for our technical team. The IP survey generated a target that's, corresponded with that sat basically just below our calculated boiling depth in the model that we put
Hmm.
together. We drilled 8 holes into it, 7 really. We lost 1 this year, but, so 7 full holes. Um, and we're happy with the results. Having these broad intervals over 200 meters of continuous gold mineralization, it's lower grade, but there are some higher grade blips in there. Like, keep in mind, this is Nevada. We look at this system as an analog to AngloGold Ashanti's Silicon or Arthur discovery or project. Um, and we're starting to see more and more evidence of that with this drilling. The one we cut a number of larger quartz veins in this last round of drilling. One of the smaller veins that we clipped ran over 2 grams. So proves the system is capable of generating higher grades. If we had a drill out there right now, I'd love to undercut that hole and see if there's any dilation in that vein, if it blows out, and where it's coming from. Like, uh, seeing that we proved that the system is capable of carrying higher grades, and it's generating a broad halo of mineralization. Like, something's happening there. It requires more work. These are complex systems. It would have been nice to get a bonanza intercept on this last phase, but we didn't get it. But we absolutely did not write this project off. It's begging for more drill holes out there. And I think the next phase would be, you know, anywhere from 12 to 20 holes into this thing. We've really expanded the footprint as well. Like, we were able to get out spatially and test targets over well over a kilometer apart. So big step outs.
Hmm.
It's a big system. Something serious going on there, and we need to determine whether or not it's carrying significant grade and where that is.
Is there a conversation to happen regarding maybe adjusting capital allocation here for more exploration budget towards SI2, along with obviously all the work at Mojave?
At this year, not at this point. I think this year,
Okay.
we are laser focused on Mojave for the rest of this calendar year and getting as much work done there as possible. That's not to say that we're not thinking about SI2. The technical team's definitely working on ideas on next steps. Like, we there needs there's some work to be done there to hone in our targeting prior to
Uh-huh.
another phase of drilling. So, there's conversations ongoing about methods of geophysics to apply and next steps,
Right.
um, to hone in and tighten up our targeting at SI2 for sure.
Okay. Well, beyond that, I mean, there's even more to be had. You did actually add a larger land position in the Yukon, and obviously a tremendous amount of his success in Yukon amongst this team in previous cycles. So you're back out there. It's still early days, but you did. I mean, there's a lot. You added a lot of land here. So how does this project fit into that long
Uh,
term strategy?
well, we've had the Wells project that was in K2's portfolio. Well, I guess backstory, K2, the name of the company comes from Kaminak Gold. So K2 was a
Right.
successor to Kaminak. That was all well before my time with the company. But when I came into K2, along with Eric, our vice president of exploration, the Wells property was in the portfolio. We dusted it off and had a look at it. And with Eric was project manager at Kaminak. So a lot of experience up there. I spent a lot of time in Yukon, the Northwest Territories myself. Um, we put a drill program together in 2023, had some pretty interesting results. Was a bit more of a difficult market at the time. And, the whole concept for for the Wolf project, which we staked recently, uh, we actually came up with that concept back in 2024. Um, we were There was a plan in place to stake it, and just before, literally the week before we were going to present it the final presentation to our board. There was a Victoria Gold incident in the Yukon, so we kind of put the project on the shelf to see how things would play out there. And earlier this year, I think it was after our financing in January and March, we put the project back on the table. It was a relatively low cost of acquisition and property was still available. So we launched a crew out to stake it. And kind of a classic Northern Canadian story. The last day that our crew was out staking, just finishing things up, another helicopter showed up in the area and it was a competitor's company with the same concept on stake it. So thankfully we beat them to it and had it wrapped up. But good to see that happening. And I guess the broader story with the Wolf Project is this property was held by Teck for better part of 20 years, 18, 19 years, and was dropped around 2024, 2023. But it was identified by Teck based on a regional soil sampling or a regional stream sediment sampling they had completed in the earlier part of the 2000s. They identified roughly 20 kilometers of mineralization. The key issue was that whole band of mineralization. It runs basically east-west. Teck didn't have the whole thing. The property was fractionated up, is what I'm trying to say. So a lot of surface work done, not much drilling, but there's a lot of reports of coarse gold and streams in the area. The hard rock source of those have never been found. There's a 10-kilometer long soil anomaly that's been identified through soil sampling. Never really been drill tested. So we acquired the property. As we mentioned in our news release when we announced that, we are currently going through the process to put the wells in the Wolf property into a wholly owned subsidiary within K2, and we'll see how things evolve with that. But yeah, it's, we love the Yukon. We've got a lot of experience up there, and it's a great project. It's early days, but we've got a quite modest program budgeted for this year that'll be happening later in the summer. But just some ridge and spur soil sampling and confirmation sampling to just give ourselves confidence that the historic sampling is what we believe it to be. So that'll get going later this year, and we'll see how things move ahead. But it's an exciting place, and we love working in the Yukon.
So potential for some added shareholder value here through this with a spin out of some sort.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Looking forward to how that plays out and break that down. I'm sure that'll be a conversation for another time, but I think shareholders listening in will be kind of keen to understand a little bit more about how that's going to happen. So very cool. All right, Anthony, thanks so much for your time. A lot happening here in the next 6 months. Obviously, Mojave updates and data releases. I mean, it's going to be an incredible 2026. Exciting to get back on the property. But thanks so much. We'll talk to you again here in the coming weeks, months, and obviously through the conference season.
Thanks a lot, Trevor. Appreciate your time, and always good catching up.
Yep. All right. K2 Gold trades on the venture with KTO and on the OTC QX with KTGDF. I am a shareholder of the company. They're also a partner of Mining Stock Daily. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. The information presented should not be considered investment advice. Mining Stock Daily and its affiliates are not responsible for any loss arising from any investment decision in connection with the material presented herein. Please do your own research or speak with a licensed financial representative before making any investment decisions.